Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I'm sitting here with another one of my Frankenstratocaster machiner things. I took out the middle pickup, and I'm just so happy about that. It was always in the way, and it was inspired by a guitar I had recently grabbed in some trading that had the same configuration, humbucker, single coil, and it's just simple. I got a three-way switch, and I can split that if I need. But when I got this Seymour Duncan Jeff Beck pickup, I picked up the pickup and there was a silver cover on it. I went ahead and ordered the pickguard and had it sized out for a pickup with a pickguard cover. But it turns out that once I really looked at the pickup, it actually wasn't properly mounted to the cover. It wasn't grounded, and there was nothing really keeping the cover from shaking and being, not becoming sonic. So it was feeding back a lot and making a lot of noise in any guitar that I would put it in. And so, yeah, after looking at it, I was like, oh, yeah, well, no wonder I'm having trouble with it. So I am going to put a chrome pickup cover on this and just kind of continue with the black and chrome look that I got going on in this thing. I got black and chrome going on all over the guitar. So I'm going to chrome that guy up right there with that pickup cover. See, nice and reflective. You can get these set up for the pickups and have them spaced for a Floyd Rose or a tremolo system where the screws are on the pickup. That's where the holes are going to go, is to leave room for those screws. And then I need to isolate this from kind of the rest of the pickup and make sure that it's grounded and then also not moving. So I'm going to do a couple of things to it just to make sure that it's all seated properly and happy. But once I get that on there, it'll be kind of cool looking. I'm looking forward to having it just be a completed thing. I really like this guitar. It's got the EVH drop tuner on it, so I can, use it almost all night long with within the cover band set, and that's a lot of fun. Yeah, there it is. So the first step is getting the hardware off so I can access the pickup. This is a body that I took all of the paint off of and all of the poly finish and actually stained it and then gave it a little wax coating and then beaten the heck out of it. So you can see now I need to rough up that pickup a little bit. I need to rough up the base plate there and get it so that the wax that's already on it is, off of that surface so that I can actually adhere some solder to it and then get the case itself to, or the cover itself to adhere as well. So I'm going to have to do that to the cover, but that'll do for me. That'll be just fine, and it'll take solder just fine. So you do need that to be pretty hot. Now the candle is going to be lit and warming up so that I have a little wax to cover my pickup with. Now, disclaimer, this is part one of a two-part video. I know how this worked out. So it got a little bit more involved. So I decided this part would be just to cover going over installing a cover, or to, some of the key points. Right now I'm backing those screws off. I went a little too far on them. Backing those screws off so that when I do put the cover on, I can bring them down and they won't, be... It's just a little easier to back them down as opposed to anything else, especially once the wax is on there. I don't want to kind of push against the cover by bringing those screws up and then break any sort of bond that's in there in the wax. The cover fits real well. Spreading a little wax now, just carefully. See how I have a couple of towels down over the guitar. I didn't feel like taking the pickup off of the pickguard. You probably should, but that's what I did. I want to create enough of a bond to the surface there and that the cover doesn't keep shaking. And now I wiped off some of the wax. My first mistake was that I just wiped off a little too much of it all around. So you don't have to wipe off as much as I'm doing. I really am doing far too much here. And henceforth, part two coming up soon. And literally, I'm planning on having part two come up just a few minutes after I release this first one. So the next step is going to be actually getting the solder to adhere. I like to use a little flux because it just really helps the solder bond to something heavy duty like that and get it into place. Make sure that the screw holes are aligned the way that you want them so that the screws are the screws that I've raised up are actually going through those holes. I use a clamp to keep it really clamped down so that when the solder is finishing its job, it doesn't have, it's not got strain against it from the pickup cover trying to push away from the pickup. So, and then I have this, like I said, up pretty hot. When you solder, the best thing to do is put a little bit on the tip of the soldering iron. That gets the whole process going. Don't necessarily use that part, but that helps to get the solder moving and it gets the tip doing what it's supposed to be doing. So I just leave a little bit of solder right on the tip when I am doing this process. And mistake number two here, I really probably should have spent a little more time soldering those points. I should have done the corners, the four corners. That's a little bit of a better deal and seal. And quite honestly, it didn't matter because, like I said, there's a part two. But this should be enough to make it ground. And it was grounded. I took a meter to it, which is something I recommend. You don't see it filmed here, but I took a meter and just checked for continuity all around it. And you can see that there is the reasonably decent solder job. But yeah, I should have gotten those corners there. That would have been a better move for me. I should have sanded off those sides there. And you can see the cover is actually still, there's a lot of air between the pickup itself and the cover. So I started getting nervous even when I just started doing this part of it, that I have a feeling this didn't quite create this seal inside of it. You really don't want a lot of air in between that cover and the pickup once you get this put on there. So here I am putting the parts all back together, and it's of course a little bit of a tedious process. I try to keep everything in a cup or something so that the things don't get knocked around because I'm a disaster when I work. I'm a mess. But one of the things I like to do there, you see how I put that first screw in place without the spring, and then I do this second screw. That first screw is just sitting there holding the pickup in place. And I like the way that looks. I really just, every time I see that, I really like the way the black and the chrome against that tortoiseshell look. But I use the one to hold it in place, and then I release that once I get the spring on with this first screw, and then I back it up a little bit and put that one on. It's a little trick that just helps hold the pickup in place when you're installing it onto a pick guard like this. The same technique applies for installing a pickup onto a pickup ring. You can kind of use that same trick if you're going to be mounting it onto a ring as opposed to a pick guard. I don't really have any, good grief, man. I mean, you can see how much of that body I've just destroyed and how much I wanted to and how much I still need to in order to make it really work. But here I have I'm just trying to tuck all the wires out of the way so that when I put it back into place, it's not all bumpy on the pick guard because there's cables in the wrong place between the wire and the wood. And I use one little zip tie just to kind of keep it out of the way. And I'll trim that up just so that it's cleaned up and all that. Like I said, though, there is this, I ended up having to undo all of this because I have one more trick that I needed to do in order to make this really, really work the way that I wanted it to, and in order to kill the complete microphonic feedback that I was getting, that kind of uncontrollable squeal out of the guitar. I like having control of the feedback, obviously. I like feedback. Feedback's fun for a guitarist. That's one of the reasons why we play guitars. we can make it howl and squeal in different ways. So I want to be able to control the feedback, though. I don't want it to be a squealy pitch that is always there, like you heard in the clip when the pickup was in the PRS guitar that I was demoing it with. So now that I have all of the screws back in place, I'm going to go ahead and get the guitar tuned back up, and I'm going to walk back over to the cottage. And the first thing I do is plug it in and put it on a high gain channel. And I can tell you that from seeing all that air that I had in that pickup, I'm really certain that despite the fact that the pickup was already previously potted, I'm pretty certain that that pickup and the cover were still just a little microphonic, because I was getting just a little bit of squeal, still just a touch. And so there's a way to then deal with that once you have figured out whether it worked or not. So please stay tuned. Just a few minutes, I should have this video posted. If you're watching in the future, hi future, and the video will probably already be there. So here I am running with my guitar, and I'm lucky I didn't fall. If you're a subscriber and you've rung the bell, you'll get the notification that the new video is up. If you're not a subscriber, please do so now. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. Thanks.